Destination Medicine is a collaborative initiative of regional training hubs. With first-hand lessons learned from those who have gone before, this podcast is designed to assist and inspire anyone interested in pursuing a medical career in rural and regional Australia.
Welcome to Destination Medicine. I'm Nicole Goodman. Stephanie Pollard has come a long way from the sporty young girl she once was, with hopes in her heart to study medicine. Here she is today. Her uni studies are behind her, and now she's a junior doctor working as an intern at Orange Health Service in New South Wales. Why Orange? Well, as a proud Ngemba woman, Stephanie is passionate about rural medicine. She's determined to make an impact on Indigenous health, helping others in need of culturally appropriate healthcare out in the country who may otherwise fall through the cracks. Stephanie tells Heather Dawson more about her aspirations shortly. But first, back to her sporty young life, where medicine was just a small seed in her mind.
Well, I think it all started as a young kid. So I used to do a lot of sport, and with that, unfortunately, comes the injuries. So when I think I must have been about 8 or 9, I first started getting those injuries. And with that, I found it really interesting, the medicine side of things and how it all worked together and how logical it was. It just seemed to work with my brain. And then in year 7, whilst I was at school playing indoor soccer, I accidentally tripped over and I broke my arm. So I went to a sports medicine doctor, and I just thought what they were doing was so interesting, and I thought that's what I want to do. And then through high school and doing science, I thought, well, why not just try medicine in general and see what other interests come up? And I'm glad I had that mindset, because I've since then separated medicine and my academic side of life from sport, so that I have 2 different avenues and 2 different ways of thinking about things.
Well, you got there, and now you're a junior doctor. You're currently working at Orange Health Service as an intern. What led you to Orange?
I've always really enjoyed rural life. So my parents grew up and met in Goulburn before they moved to Queanbeyan for more opportunities for both themselves and their kids. And often we would go back to Goulburn to visit family and also just to have holidays and to chill out. And I just really enjoyed that lifestyle. It's a much more relaxed lifestyle. People tend to be friendlier when you're walking downtown. They say hello to each other instead of putting their head down and quickly walking past. So I've enjoyed that as a kid growing up. And then also, I'm Indigenous, so my people are from around Brewarrina, and I just feel as though I'm able to make the greatest impact in a rural town, both for Indigenous health and non-Indigenous health. And by living in a more rural, remote town, I'm able to get a better lifestyle balance too. For Orange in particular, I was lucky enough in my 3rd year of medical school to have a placement at Orange Hospital. And I just found that they were so welcoming and happy to teach and happy to have you there and get you involved, which is in stark contrast to some of my experiences in some of the bigger hospitals. So I just thought that this is the place I want to be, and it has such a great reputation too. How could you not want to come out here?
Well, how important do you think it is for Indigenous patients to have access to Indigenous doctors?
I think it's incredibly important for many reasons. One, that Indigenous doctors tend to understand more so what Indigenous patients are going through. They understand that sometimes just that it's such a foreign environment, that there's many more people than they're used to, and they're speaking this medical jargon, and they just feel so out of place and not heard. They want to get away from it, which is completely understandable. There are other things like Indigenous people sometimes want to be able to use traditional medicine, and there are many non-Indigenous doctors who just don't understand that and don't understand why that would be important. And I think that's something that an Indigenous doctor has a better understanding of. So it's these things that I think work together and work in an Indigenous doctor's favour to be able to get the best outcome for Indigenous patients.
Do you think that, yes, indeed, that the outcomes are better if you provide culturally appropriate care to Indigenous patients?
Absolutely. I've seen it many times where if you just take a moment to sit down and have a chat with the patient and see why is it that they want to leave, what are the barriers and what are the things which they're struggling with, then you can work through them and help to make them feel more comfortable. Even sometimes sharing some experience or knowledge or just sharing the fact that you are Indigenous, they feel like they're amongst a more known entity and they engage in the healthcare system more so. So that way there are just better outcomes. And I've seen it in the cardiac unit. I've seen it in ED. It just seems to work a lot better.
Now, you're in this internship in Orange. What would you consider the best bits of your internship so far?
I think being part of the team is incredible and being respected and your opinions valued. Sometimes we are with the patients more than what the registrars have the opportunity to be with them. And patients will tell you things that they haven't told anyone else, and it can really make the difference for their care. And I find out here that the registrars, for one, are happy to have a joke, are happy to have a chat about things outside of medicine. So that relationship and the rapport is built up. So I feel more than comfortable to say, hey, have you thought about this? Or how about these other things? They might be barriers to the patient being able to get home. And it's just such a nice atmosphere. Other things that I found great is that it only takes me 15 minutes to drive across town to get to work. I think many of my colleagues in Sydney and Canberra wouldn't believe that. It just means that I have more time to do things that I'd like to do outside of work. And in that, I've become part of a hockey team and they've all been so welcoming. Just that work-life balance has been incredible.
And I think you think that the teaching is exceptional as well.
Oh, absolutely. The teaching out here is incredible. There's 19 interns. So the teachers are our consultants or the registrars. And because it's such a small group of us, they ask us, what would you like to learn about today? Or is there any questions? And you feel more than comfortable asking questions or putting forward what you would like to be taught on that day. And they really then can pitch it at the right level. So it's absolutely exceptional out here.
Now, Stephanie, it's often said that your medical education doesn't stop when you finish medical school. So now you've taken the leap from medical student to intern. What are some of the differences you've noticed about how you continued your medical education?
Well, we get teaching every week, which is by the consultants and the registrars. There's also the ward round teaching as you're on the job and things come up. You can ask questions and often there's great explanations. And if you don't understand, always happy to explain further. There's also the impromptu teaching or the organised teaching. So just the other weekend, one of the consultants organised for us to go out to his house and he held a trauma weekend where he took us through different things which he'd learnt or things that he does on the job. And he even had a sheep, which unfortunately needed to be put down, but we then learnt how to put chest drains in on it, which is just an amazing opportunity that I can't see would ever happen in the city. So it's this kind of education which I think is incredible. And after that weekend, I could really see different situations where I started to go, oh, I remember learning about that and trying to put it back into my everyday work.
Now, that might be some of the more interesting highlights, but there'd be challenges as well. What sorts of challenges are you dealing with?
Absolutely, there are challenges. One of the challenges is distance. So trying to organise for patients to get home can sometimes be a real struggle. It can be difficult to organise the transport, organise services, and at times that can be quite disheartening as well. We all just want what's best for our patients, and when you know that you're sending them back into their community or into their town and they may not have the opportunity to get the best medical care, that can be quite disheartening. Sometimes there are the long shifts. They can be quite a struggle. But overall, I think the positives outweigh the negatives and you're willing to overcome these things because of the amazing privilege that we have to treat patients and to be let into their lives.
Well, many young doctors own up to feeling a bit of an imposter, having imposter syndrome. Has that been your story as well?
Absolutely. And I think something that has made me feel like even more of an imposter is that no one else in my family has a medical career. And there's not many other people in my family who've been to university. So unfortunately, not everybody is supportive of me studying medicine and becoming a doctor. So there are times where I question what I'm doing, and times where people will outright say, you're getting above yourself. So that can be quite difficult and a real struggle to continue to persevere and to listen to the people who are supporting you rather than those who are putting doubt in your mind.
Well, do you have any advice to give to a medical student who might be thinking about undertaking a rural internship?
I'd say absolutely go for it. There are many interns or medical students who are worried that by going out into a country town that they're not going to have the opportunities that the big hospitals have to offer, when in reality, I think you get more opportunities. You get trusted to do more, you get exposed to more, and just the interactions that you have is you're expected to be at a higher level. And I think we really get the benefit of that by being out in a country town, and you get to feel as though you're amongst the town, you're part of the town. And sometimes I think even though there are more people in a big city, you can feel a little bit isolated and off on your own.
Well, do you have advice for Indigenous people who might be considering a career in medicine, and of course the support that might be available to them?
I would say absolutely go for it. If it's something that you even have an inkling that is what you would like to do, then jump in. There is so much support that the universities have to offer and the medical profession in general has to offer. There's scholarships to help with accommodation and so that you don't have to work so much. There is tutoring to help with that aspect. And there's also just general support for those days where it all seems too tough and that you don't have anyone else to turn to. There's support both within the university, and also the Indigenous medical students and doctors are always there for each other. So I would say absolutely go for it. And overall, the support and the help that we can give our mob to improve their health is absolutely worth it.
Okay, well, talking of support, did you have a mentor going through?
I did. I was lucky enough that I had a couple of mentors pick me up along the way. So one of my mentors actually saw me as a medical student in first year. She was one of the tutors which we had for our clinical skills. And she saw that I probably needed a little bit more support. I was very unsure in the situation because I didn't have those family members who were doctors to lead me on the right path. And she has proven to be not only a great mentor, but a great friend. She's given me many opportunities. Like in my first year, she took me into theatre and I was able to see a baby being born via a C-section. It was absolutely incredible to see a baby that fresh and just the joy that the family had at having their baby being born. It was such a privilege. And now I've even gone down and visited her at her house and stayed with her and spent time with her family. So that's been amazing. And there have been a couple of other mentors I've picked up, or have picked me up, I suppose, along the way and helped out with different aspects of medicine and giving advice and support.
Is there any particular advice that you've been given during your training or into your internship that has really stuck with you?
I think one of the most amazing pieces of advice I've been given, and I think back on this a lot, is feel the fear and do it anyway. I mean, being sensible with that, but there are many times where your first cannula or going to theatre or seeing those tricky patients that you're fearful and you're not sure what to do and whether you can actually do it. And the advice that I was given was feel the fear and get in there and do it anyway. And I absolutely appreciated that. So, yeah.
Well, Stephanie, what does the future look like for you? Do you have an idea of where you'd like to be in, say, 10 years?
My dream in 10 years would be to be a paediatrician, whether that be fully qualified or still on the training pathway. I'd love to be working part-time. I think it gives me a much better work-life balance because ultimately for me, this is a job and there are things I'd like to be able to do outside of medicine. And I'd love to have a family. Having kids to me is so important. So that would be my dream, working part-time, a paediatrician and kids of my own.
Okay, well, final question. Any memories, insights or advice that you'd like to share with the people listening to you now?
I think the main things that I would like to pass on is that medicine can be seen as this prestigious thing that's so difficult to get into and unobtainable. But really, if you set your mind to it and you work hard, you can absolutely do it. And there will be struggles along the way, but there is support if you reach out for it. So give it a go.
Dr. Stephanie Pollard, currently working as an intern at Orange Health Service, New South Wales.
Regional training hubs are supported by funding from the Australian Government under the Rural Health Multidisciplinary Training Program.